welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Lawanda.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Ron.
I'm Jay.
And today we have with us a special guest. Tiffany, you want to let everybody know about our special guest?
Sure. Today we have Bucky Malone, an independent artist from the DMV. If you don't know what the DMV stands for, it stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So we're doing a little independent artist spotlight today before we get into our recap.
What's up, man? How y'all doing? Thank y'all for having me, first and foremost.
It's our pleasure, man. Our pleasure.
Thank you for joining it.
Thank you.
It's very fitting for us because we are discussing 40-year-old version today, and that has a lot to do with the rap scene. So you can give us a little insight.
Oh yeah, I found that joint hilarious, by the way. Shout out Lena for that, because that shit was hilarious. I like how she incorporated a lot of surprise cameo appearances. Like, as soon as the movie came on, I seen Styles in it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I already knew it was about to be crazy. So yeah, it was
Young
dope.
M.A.
It definitely was refreshing to see. I ain't seen no comedy like that in a while.
Cool. Well, if you guys hang tight, we'll be right back. We're going to get into the discussion in just a second.
One burnt you, know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him. Swear that's the truth. So you can't trust that I won't.
Okay, well, we're back. And before we get into our discussion, we're going to show a quick clip of Bucky's performance and video. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask him a couple questions about some of the people that he's worked with, some projects that you have coming up. I understand you have some performances in the DC area coming up. You want to tell the people?
Yeah, I got a few shows coming up in the DC area. One in particular is October 24th. It's a Saturday at Songbird, DC. It's a virtual concert. It will be available to watch in person, but they're streaming it on a projector outside of the venue. But for people that's like in another state or somewhere else, you can stream it from your home comfortably and cozy.
Cool.
Oh, that's hot.
Okay. And recently you had a real good cosign. You want to tell the people about that?
Yes. My new video, Curious, it was actually premiered by Pusha T and his new label, Airwave Music Group. So shout out to Pusha T, shout out to Airwave, shout out all the people working behind the scenes, Doug Wilder, Huey, shout out to them boys. But yeah, it definitely was a full circle moment. Being from Virginia, growing up listening to Star Trek, Pharrell, the clips, what I'm saying? So it was honored. I'm still in the moment, I'm still kind of like not even believing it happened for real. So shout out Pusha T.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like VA representing.
Two up, two down.
Definitely.
Cool.
And there was a couple other people that you worked with before. You had an opportunity to open up for, if you want to talk about that.
I got a chance to open up for Juicy J, ASAP and the ASAP Mob. I worked with ASAP Top Beats from ASAP Mob as well. So, I made my rounds, as far as the music industry goes, from the underground level to like even some of the big wigs, So it's a lot of people that I done worked with.
Okay. Well, before we get into this recap, can you tell everybody how to find you on social media, your streaming platforms and so forth?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Bucky Malone 703, and it's spelled BUCKYMALONE and 703. You know what I'm saying? And that's on Instagram and Twitter. As far as I'm on all streaming platforms as well. Just search Bucky Malone, Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, everything, man. I'm everywhere. YouTube and all.
Okay. Thank you. So now I'm going to kick it back to T so she can lead us off in this discussion.
And before T, we got a short clip of Bucky Malone. So y'all look at this and tell us what you think in your comments. But I'm telling you right now, it's tight.
I'm in town for one night, so come and see me, ayy. I don't ask for much tonight, I need you near me, ayy. Keep my IG and I see you going through my page. Know you curious, little baby, so let's do some things. I might pull up on you in that coupe, I'm switching lanes. Bitch, I'm ballin' and it ain't a thing. Don't try to play.
Okay, so how did you guys like that clip? Please let us know in the comments. Like Ron said before, I feel like it's hot. I mean, Bucky Malone, We appreciate you definitely joining us. And like I said before, you will definitely be able to give us the inside scoop onto this industry stuff.
Definitely.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I
man. Oh
feel
yeah.
like,
I don't know it all, but I done seen it all, you know.
I was about to say, experience is a good teacher. You know from experience, probably.
That's true.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And based on what we've seen, so this movie, 40-year-old version, is directed and written and starring Radha Blank, but it's produced by our girl Lena Waithe. How you doing, Lena?
Hey, Lena.
Of course, it's excellent. Yeah.
Yes.
This is a
And so initially watching this, I could definitely sense Radha's frustrations with, things. And it seems like she's kind of she's the main character obviously in the show, but she seems unfulfilled in where, she is currently. She was previously like on the up and coming scene. She was, the one of the top 30 under 30. And she's a playwright. And it seems like she was doing well at that initially, but it's kind of like at a standstill. But she uses the rap scene to kind of voice her real frustrations with what she's going through in life. And so I could appreciate that. And it really reminded me a lot of Issa, from
Oh yeah.
Insecure.
Insecure.
because she really used her raps to talk to herself and to check herself and to kind of like voice her frustrations with her situation. And I was like, I can see that being a good outlet for anybody, especially if you're musically inclined.
And I want
for
to
sure.
say this, and I really want to say this because I think with today's music that we got going on, and we got a lot of artists too that are sampling jazz, contemporary jazz. And when the movie opened up with Donald Byrd, a piece called A Bronx Tale, I mean, I kind of sat up, okay, because I grew up on that kind of music. And I mean, to tell you, I knew that it was going to be a hit in my heart from from the very scene and that music. I'm like, I had to grab my wife. I said, come here, you got to come sit down and watch this because this is going to be tight. And then you end with Quincy Jones, Love and Peace, from his album, long-standing album, Walking in Space. I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Just on those two items alone, they
definitely covered the full gamut. They definitely they touched on a lot of levels of what hip hop was, and you can see that. I mean, it was a very relatable movie in general. I mean, I could say for other reasons because I had a similar piece to it because it's very relatable that when you get to 40 years old, it's a very clear mark in your dreams versus your reality.
What you say?
And we all learn it when you get over 40. Once you hit 40, you're like, so now I got to decide what's real versus what my idea, what I thought I'd be doing by this point. And so I thought the film was excellent. I thought that it just spoke to so many different things about people who are trying to, you're trying to stay positive, you're trying to stay hopeful, you're trying to stay working, you stay, housed, and you're trying to stay, fed, and all of those things converge at one point. And I thought they handled it pretty good. I thought they really, expressed that in every way they could.
Yeah, and I think the importance of it is that, she's looking for a place to express herself for artistic freedom. And the fact that as creators, you are compelled to do what you do to create. And as griots and storytellers, we can't help but be that way, or she can't help as a playwright but be that way. But then the other side of it is the business side, to where we have these people who are external to the art, the financiers, the producers, who want to use our art as a commodity. Right. And so in doing that, it's always this give and take. I can give you money, but you have to compromise the art. So right. I thought what was important is that she found hip hop as a way for that creative expression, for a way to have her voice heard and not be censored, and not have to make that choice. Like she said, like, I want to be an artist, but I also want to pay my rent,
That's true. That's so true.
She kept saying FYOV, find your own voice. And hip hop was that outlet for her. And like Ron, I appreciated the jazz in the film, but I also appreciate the hip hop. I consider myself to be a hip hop head, especially old school hip hop. I like the new stuff. I like new hip hop, but I really love old school, and I appreciated that it opened up with Tribe called Classic.
You're
Yeah,
right.
and both all of those art forms were created out of Black people being in places where they were oppressed and suppressed, right? It was created as that way to give voice to those inner frustrations.
Right.
Like it also speaks to, I think, our nature as creator, that no matter where we are, we're always creating, we're always inventing and reinventing. But then again, there's always that force that wants to commodify our work. And often at the time to not give us the benefit of our own creativity and our own creation.
And if
so
you
I think that was the underscore theme of the whole film, is that here we are being creators, wanting to express ourselves. Someone's always trying to do it, but then trying to compromise the message.
And if you marry the two together, that is the two genres of music, the hip hop and the avant-garde jazz, because hip hop is avant-garde. So when you start to listen to hip hop in the same fashion that you listen to that jazz, you start to get a relationship that is often kind of left behind, because between blues, how it all started, and then you got your jazz, then you got your R&B, and you got your hip hop, old as well as new. That avant-garde, that difference that it makes in the movie, that twist, I mean, in the music, they all come together very clean. And that's what I love so much about the movie, because you married or bridged two different generations and brought them together quite eloquently. And in that black and white genre, I saw,
I was gonna say that.
I saw a little Spike Lee, some of his first movies with the single, I think Super 35 camera angles with the panning and so forth, and black and white. So I mean,
90s vibe.
Yeah, it was just exquisitely done to tell a story.
But did you have any,
coming out of New York, it was very authentic. I love how it was D from Brownsville. I mean, if you know anything about Brownsville, you understand that going there 2 a.m. means something. You're not going to just roll in and out of Brownsville, without a conversation at 2 a.m. It could happen, but you know what I'm saying. But
and Brownsville means a lot for artists too. Some of the authors like Zora Neale Hurston.
Right. Right. I mean, like I said, that's my home. I'm born in Brownsville. You know what I'm saying? So long story short, I'm just saying I thought it was very authentic. I thought the way that she came across, as far as her whole story, you felt the pain. You saw how this woman was driven. She was trying to just, keep it going with the teaching job. And the new wave of kids versus the way things were when we grew up, per se, is completely different. These new kids will challenge you at every turn.
Yes, sir.
And there's so many different dynamics to dating now than it was back when we were kids. So looking at that dynamic with the young lady who was obviously conflicted,
Elaine,
versus the one that was, fully out. It was
Rosa.
Like they brought all of those pieces together nicely, because, like I said, again, it was addressing new problems with an old school theme. Yeah. So I felt like they actually took all of the elements from, like you said, the 80s Spike Lee films, the 90s with the hip hop music, and then bringing it full circle, like I said, to the 2010s and 2020s, where you see these different kids, like they went to that show, they were just excited to see what was going to come of it. But they weren't, they just bridged those two pieces together, where you felt, like you said, the old school versus the new school. It didn't feel like anybody was alienated out of it. It felt like they celebrated each side of everything. So I thought that was dope.
And I want to ask Bucky a question, because I'm sorry. I wanted to ask Bucky a question because I could really feel the heartfeltness of Radha when she was trying to get her stuff together, and it was just falling apart. And I know, Bucky, you've come from some dungeons yourself. It's been hard work to get to where you are today. So can you relate or can you tell us how you relate to Radha in that same with your own experiences?
Through my experience, I definitely related with her on some parts, just on the simple fact that nobody really was encouraging like that at first. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much everybody was like, even the best friend Archie, he kind of was like, are you serious? Like, what you doing? And you would think the closest people to you would be the most supportive in certain moments. So really, like, even when she had bombed at the first little showcase or what have you. She ghosted everybody. She was ashamed of herself. And it's like, it's going to be times where people going to reject you and not really feel where you coming from. And then you got to overcome all of that. So I definitely felt that, you know, I never been discouraged to that point or came to that lowest. But in the earlier times, I definitely had moments where people were like, you rapping, like, come on, you for real? Like, you know, they ain't really believe it and they ain't see it yet. And I had to make them see it.
That's real talk.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I could feel like, I see how as an artist, like I always listen to Erykah Badu and she's like, you know, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my ish, you know, like.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think that's how a lot of artists are, like, especially when you have a heartfelt love for what you're doing and people might not necessarily see the vision or they might not, you know, agree with what you're doing. It's kind of like, regardless of how you feel about it, you should still be supportive because, you know, you are sensitive about your work.
Yeah.
From music, film, all of that, it's all art, you know what I'm saying? So it's a piece of you. So if somebody doesn't like it, you take it personal. Like, it's like, what, you don't like me or something? What, you don't like what I'm bringing to the table? Because this is my life. This is what I'm putting into it. So yeah, it gets very personal when the art is on the table, you know?
Yeah.
So I think you know, when the movie started and I'm looking at Radha and I was very conflicted with her because I couldn't quite gather exactly where she was headed. You know, I knew she kept saying she was a writer, but then, you know, she had this urge to rap. And I'm thinking, well, okay, is this the 40-year-old version where it's somebody's telling you maybe you should sit down, that you're too old to start rapping? And then when she got in that studio and she started spitting, I'm like, I was on the edge of my seat.
She was dope though. She was dope. She was definitely dope.
She reminded me of like a cross between Queen Latifah and like Lady of Rage because she was spitting knowledge and stuff, but her delivery was kind of like Lady of Rage.
Yeah, she had a story. Like, she really was telling a story, and I think the producer Deep kind of brought that out.
Yes, he did.
When he was like talking to the other dudes, like, y'all don't got a story. Like, she really like telling me a story, and when you rapping, I'm zoning out because I'm kind of like, okay, what are you talking about?
What they talking about? The dudes are whack. I'm sorry. Even the chick. I need my check. I need my check.
Auntie had them bars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was good because it was like, you know, art is art. It defies age, it defies gender, particularly when he took her to the underground rap scene and you see
I love that.
All these different women coming from different backgrounds, having their different style of rap, telling a different story as they rap. That, you know, our art forms defy labeling. You can't really put the artist in a box because the art can be expressed in so many different ways.
Right.
And I think that's what even surprised D, because he didn't know what her motivation was, you know. Like,
I like D because he helped her find her voice and he appreciated like her authenticity. I think that's what helped her to, you know, to focus on her own authenticity, because the play, you know, like they were disappointed because of course she asked for a Black director. And they gave her a white director. And then they had her young lead, the Black lead, speaking in Ebonics and everything. And I love that she was like, why is my character speaking like this and Julie over here?
They always overcompensate, got us looking extra. Like, it's not like that in real life.
Right. But that was her work. That was her art.
The whole thing with hip hop is this though, and I think this is the key that you got to look at with the film. Hip hop is very age oriented. It's one of the few arts where they don't allow you to grow. It's one of the few arts where when you get to a certain, you age out of hip hop. You age out of hip hop almost like you do the NBA, because it's going to be relatable to a certain group of people. And what happens is that the age group that's over 35, that's why the demographics, if you ever look at demographics, it's usually 17 to 35, because after 35, the people spend their money differently. So you don't have that same affinity, you know, for those kind of artists that you would have when you were 15, 16 years old. So when you're looking at the way that was brought together, again, like I said, I related to it because I wrote a similar piece. And with the whole idea of what it is when you're rapping, you're desperate to get out your work as fast as possible so that you can enjoy as much of the, the rewards that come with it, because once you're over 30, once you're over 35 especially, it's almost like it's impossible. And that's one thing I did like about the movie. They didn't paint an unrealistic ending where you saw her sign some big record deal or she was on fire. You left the movie knowing that there was hope. And whatever that hope was, or whatever she manifested from that point on, was unwritten. And I thought that the way that they brought those elements together, that, like I said, again, anybody who goes to work every day, whether you love your job or hate your job, if it's not exactly what you dreamed on doing, this movie is going to hit home to you, because you're looking at this thing and saying, you know what it is to get up every day at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and go to a place where you're just trying to make ends meet. And like you said, what they did with having those, the guy, his name was Josh, I guess, in the Josh Whitman in the movie, it's always somebody to exploit. Whatever art we have, there's someone waiting to exploit it. There's never art where we just art. Because if that was the case, we all be in our houses making whatever we want. People are always looking for that air of success, and the success is always met with someone who's a predatory, ironically, the call I got on before I was on here, which made me late, was someone trying to take advantage of the project we're working on. So I'm super used to, I've been doing it for like years and years and years. I did hip hop for years. I've been doing film for years. Is that when you're doing art, there's always someone waiting to exploit your art. And she had to balance out and decide whether she wanted to do the art that was paying her or the art that was truly, what was in her heart to do at that time.
But that's what I think I like about Lena, because Lena being able to help finance this project, and that's why the project was so natural. And yeah, I agree with you that hip hop ages out, but I can tell you, as a guy that's well over 40 years old, one of the things that I loved most was that story that she had in that studio. That's what captivated me. Whether I was living it or not, I could relate to it. And I think that more hip hop artists, if they understood, look, anybody can rhyme, that's not a hard thing to do, but to tell a story and to get that interest going in individuals that ordinarily would not be listening to that. Now, that's the hard part. And I think, Tupac will forever live with me because he was a storyteller.
Yeah.
And his hit, if you're not listening to the story, it sounds like anything else. But
go ahead and finish.
But it's that story. It's that way to tell a story. And then with your rhymes and whatever else you got flowing with it, that's all right. But you can capture anybody with a good story.
Yeah, and I was going to piggyback off of what you guys were saying, because I think that, so the thing about aging out of hip hop, it is very true, but I think the narrative is also trying to shift, especially with guys like Jay-Z and Nas.
I was great saying Jay-Z and Nas.
2 Chainz.
Like trying to explore it, and you got like the Juicy J's.
Once your foot's in the door, is different than if you're looking at artists that's just trying to come into the game. Like if
you can't come in at 40 necessarily and expect to jump off.
Right, you got to be already in there.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that there's opportunity there if you're dope enough to pop off maybe in your late 30s, but it's definitely harder. But for guys like Jay-Z and Nas, who have already been established in the game and who have, that big popularity, like they have what I listen to is called like age appropriate rap, and they resonate differently with me now that I'm a little bit older, and I can understand like investments and passing on a legacy and passing on generational wealth. So like their raps actually resonate with me different versus if I was a teenager. I'm not thinking about that. I'm trying to drop it low,
Trying to turn up, right?
Turn up music.
But I like Biggie and Pac
said about age appropriate hip hop.
I like KRS-One too, because he definitely was a storyteller.
Yeah, but I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this. Like I get what you're saying about the demographics, but I never got from her that she was trying to become a hip hop artist because she wanted to blow up. I got it that she just
wanted to find her voice,
able to express herself. She was looking for a vehicle for self-expression, and so even in that, what I saw her doing is somehow incorporating that into her theater performance, or into her writing. Like I could see her doing a one.
I can see her doing that too.
And incorporating that into, because the whole theme of the movie, to me, is that line between creativity and commerce, right? That's the overrunning thing. She's gonna create because she can't help from it. Her mother was an artist. Her father was a musician. It's in her blood, right?
You know the end of it because it's an autobiographical movie.
I was going to say it's basically based on her life.
Yeah, you already know what the true ending is, that she learned how to take it and incorporate it, and that's how she came up with the film. And again, that's what it is. It's always where there's this inspiration to do something when you're young. And like they say, a dream deferred. It's just you go through things in life where you're like, you got these dreams, and then you get to a certain point. But like I said, again, they tell you that you age out of your dreams. And you're right. A lot of it is just an illusion. A lot of it is just what people are, I guess, the idea of people. But like, you can jump on the scene as an actor at 45 years old and work for the rest of your life.
Yep, Morgan Freeman.
Music is one of the things where people, is a youth-driven business. It's youth-driven for a multitude of reasons. One of them is because you have to have your ear to the streets, and you have to be in the clubs, and you have to be in the places where things are being born. And 40-year-old people want to be in their bed and watch a good show. But
you find ways to do it, right? Because if you look at her life, maybe a lot of things didn't work out, but now it's her moment, right? You don't give up. You keep creating because you don't know what the door is going to be.
And that's the point. Right. And that's the whole point of the film, from my perspective, was that, like I said again, and I agree with you. You're right. It wasn't about her taking this thing and becoming Jay-Z. It was about her finding her voice and being able.
And she said it, FYOV. She kept saying it.
Yeah, and that's why I was a little disappointed with Archie, because Archie was supposed to be her friend as well as her manager.
Archie was looking like Archie was trying to survive too.
Yeah, I got that, but he wasn't listening to her.
Yeah, but
he's not from the same culture. He doesn't understand the love of hip hop that's in her, and how that's an avenue for her to express herself too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Archie's character was just supposed to be there, almost like a placeholder for her till she found her voice. Because at the end, they talked about how they weren't going to be working together anymore.
Right. She said, "You're fired." He said, "I quit." He was just going to go back to being her best friend.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I don't think it was completely selfish. I don't think it was completely selfish. I do think he had something of like, okay, at 40, it's not cool for you to be a starving artist. So I do think he was coming from a good place. You know what I mean?
He was. But as her agent too, he was like, at the same time, he was trying to keep them suits. Yeah. And he had a trip to Greece with his boo and everything. So he was trying to straddle both sides. Like that's his best friend. Yeah. So he was trying to be supportive, and he was trying to be realistic about it too. Like, hey, a 40-year-old rapper. But on the other hand, he was trying to keep them checks coming too.
But I do think though, stop putting labels on people. 40 years or 50 years. It's all about the label, because success could be anything to anybody.
It's about your drive.
Yeah, it's not always about money that warrants success. It may be the fact that she was able to actually go into a studio and create that rap could be a successful.
About that, it's like, it doesn't matter what age you are. When you see somebody that clearly has the talent,
correct.
It don't matter what age you are. Exactly. It really does not. She was hot, and it's like
she was ripping it.
You can see it. That's gonna resonate with any age.
And I like D, and that's the thing. There was a huge age difference between them two, but he helped her find
13 years. Yeah, it was about 12 to 13 year age difference between them. And for men, white men, they can go back 20, 30 years. It's okay. It's just that when blacks, when we get out of a relationship and women go back and want to reach back a few years, everybody wants to jump on them and call it whatever you want to call it. But
well, you heard what homeless Lamont said.
Right. Lamont had a lot to say, but another thing that
she needed his youth as well, though. She needed that youth, because I think that his youth is part of what propelled her to go forward, because
absolutely
he was looking at it like, yo, what are you going to do? He didn't look at it with the barriers.
Exactly.
He was giving, look, we got to put the foot to the gas where
Right.
you at with it. And I think that it was, again, I look, you know me, I will jump all over a scene that's not right. I felt like this film was done well.
But what about the scene? What about the scene when he was in the hallway and he was talking to that old white guard?
That was funny.
That was,
Yeah,
I mean,
strap on him.
You know, another funny part about it was Radha was talking with the guy from the Umoja Theater, and he's talking to his ancestors or whatever. She's like, "Let me talk to my ancestors. I got an Aunt Karen. Okay, my Aunt Karen want to see my rent."
Yeah.
I'm like, that was, I liked how they injected the humor into it too. Another thing that I really appreciated about this was, because this is Radha's story, it's authentic, so you get that. And she's a rapper, and not only is she dealing with like the societal pressures of being 40 and having expectations of being in a certain place in life, but also entering into the rap scene at 40. But not only that, as a woman, and then not only that, as you know, she's not the plastic surgery Cardi or the Meg or the Nicki type. She's like an everyday average looking woman. And so it's like she has like all of these things that she's up against. Especially like somebody, when I watch like a Missy Elliott, somebody who didn't, you know, meet the industry standards, you know, and she was still able to be successful, and she had hella talent. And so that's what I was saying about like Radha, because she's not the average, you know, female rapper today, but she had the skills and she had the talent that would propel her forward. And so that's what I appreciate about her authenticity and just being her true self, and not willing to conform to not only what they wanted her to say, but how they wanted her to look. So I thought that was something that I could appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciated that too, because what you see in the industry is not the average woman. That's not how the average woman looks
at all.
So that was the beauty of it, that he could work with her and see the beauty in her as she was. And then I like how they kind of did it without making a big deal about it.
Right, exactly.
It just was.
And that's what I liked about
everything was built on her. She was the whole story. So it wasn't, again, like she was trying to get on with a record label or something like that. Everything was based on her own talent and whether she was going to push herself to do something that was outside of her comfort zone. And I think that in any art, if you find a way to get out of your comfort zone, you're going to automatically grow. You can't grow in I don't care if it's theater, I don't care if it's film, I don't care if it's music. You can't grow if you can't push yourself outside of what makes you comfortable, because like you just said, if you're talking about all of the female artists that are out, they all follow one script. Everybody's following the same blueprint, and that's just how it is with music. But one thing I learned, it's always the person who does the opposite that becomes a star. Basically, so like when, let's say if Biggie and Pac was in, then after that, you kind of got your DMX era, you know what I'm saying, and some stuff with Jay. Then you had, let's say, 50 come along after Ja Rule. He was a complete opposite. But then after 50, you had Kanye. And then after, you know what I'm saying? It's just saying that.
And I would.
Good.
I was gonna say, I would even put her on the level with somebody like a Rhapsody, because Rhapsody is not one of those females that performs.
Drops knowledge too.
She drops knowledge. She's herself. She doesn't feel the need to conform to industry standards. And I felt like that was very much, you know, the lane that Radha is also in, like just being your authentic self.
Well, look at the film. The film itself being shot in film, being shot 35 millimeter, shot black and white, like you said, reminiscent of She's Gotta Have It in the 80s and 90s black cinema. You got to think like this. When you look at Netflix, you're not going to see another movie on Netflix that's like that.
Right.
You look on any platform, you're not going to see that kind of film, because it was something that was reminiscent of another time. It's kind of like when Neo Soul came back, and they were they were adopting things from the 70s and the early 80s, and then they created this new thing out of it. Is what she just did, which I think was really dope. It's what I'm always trying to do, is you're always trying to marry what was so dope about the past with what, you know, things you have right now.
The only thing I think that would have really honed it in for me was if it was shot in 4:3. And you can understand that.
You know that lingo. We don't know that lingo.
I know. I'll put it this way: a box format. So if it had been shot that way, along with the black and white, Yeah, I mean that's old school. But
Yeah, but
regardless,
I think that, again, you got to marry the old with the new.
no, I
And
agree.
I think that when you're bringing something that it was authentic enough for me that I felt like all of the elements of the past were in there. But like I said, again, the story wasn't dated. The concepts and the things that they implemented in the film, again, is what I'm always pushing. Every time I'm pushing film, I'm saying we got to do something that doesn't just speak to the cliches. You got to speak something that these everyday people who go to work or people that are dealing with life. It's just like if you're doing music. If all your music is about selling drugs, I don't sell drugs. So it's cool. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The beat could be dope, the story could be hot, but I'm not going to buy in everything you sell. I might buy my head to it and be like, all right, that's what's up. That's cool. But if you're really trying to reach me, you got to say something that's I'm be able to identify with.
Yeah,
That's true.
And,
that too, even down to when they were in the hallways kind of freestyling. I'm like, dang, I ain't seen a freestyle battle that raw and like
In a long time.
so long. I was like,
I
oh
like,
my goodness.
but I like the way Dee brought her
It seemed
in.
like it was staged.
I like the way Dee brought her into that though, you know, to calm her down. And I mean, the girl, I mean, she is a rapper. I mean, no doubt about it. This girl can rap. So, you know, in the end, they walk off. I don't know, as you said, Jason, I don't know which direction the movie was actually taking.
She's a writer. She's a writer.
Well, but a good rapper got to be a writer too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
that at the first and foremost, she's a writer. So yes, she's a playwright. Yes, she's a rapper. And he helped her find her voice.
Yeah. And
I disagree with you, Ron. A good MC has to be a writer.
You said a good MC. You said yeah.
A good MC has to be a writer. A rapper, you just can say the shit real good and people like it and shit.
Well, no, that's true. I'm just saying in terms of the messaging that you're rapping, you know, because you can be a good rapper and no message. Yeah, people like the beat. You know, they'll say, yeah, I like, you know, and you know, a lot of times you're not even doing the beats. You know, you just rapping. Somebody else is doing the beats. But you know, if you really want to capture everybody,
right?
If you can write down, if you can put it down on paper, and rap that too.
Well, look at it like this. You look at a guy like Future, and then look at a guy like Designer. And what you see out of these two artists is this. One was about a beat, one was about an artist. And what I'm saying is that you'll see the people who are about the beat, they make one song. They may make two. If they're really lucky, they might get 5 songs on the album that went somewhere. But if you're talking about a true artist is not like that. It's so distinct. I tell everybody, you say, what do you do when you get into music? I say, be as original as your fingerprint. I said, all our fingerprints look alike. I said, but if you break it down, we're all very different. And so it's just, I think that, like I said, again, the elements that movie brought together was that this was an authentic person. This was somebody who was trying to do what we all do. You say, I gotta eat, you know what I'm saying? And I really want to put this production on. So I gotta bend who I am to conform to what's going on out there. And then one thing about doing music, it's the most freeing thing that you'll ever do in a way, because you can go into a room by yourself with music. You don't have to come in with a band. You don't have to come in there with anybody. I can go in a room and make 10 songs if I like. And that's not something you can do with certain art. When it comes to theater, it's very hard to pull off one woman, one man shows. When it comes to film, it's impossible to do anything without a group of people working with you. Trust me, I know. So I've been through it enough times where you try to run the solo flag. And what I'm saying is that her as an artist was so dope because it was who she actually was. It was freeing for her. It was the alternate side of playing the game. I don't have to play the game with this. I can just be myself.
Exactly. And it's gonna have to be because she's already choked Whitman. She already had that against her. And then she kind of ished on her own show. Right. Yeah. So because I cringed on some parts of it, you know.
Yeah.
So but you I guess you get from this how resilient she is and how strong she is and how she will be heard and she'll find a way. And that's what I was thinking about, like, where does she go from here? She's gonna find a way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now, you know, then because we live in a culture where people kind of appreciate the rebel and the maverick, maybe now she'll get the support.
Look,
They see she about that life.
look, I'm a rapper too. You can find my work on Bathroom Label. You know, I go in the bathroom and rap my life.
All right, Easter. All right.
Well, one of the messages that I got from the film was about ownership too.
Yeah.
And us having a seat at the table, because a lot of times as creatives, when we're creating this work and you want to give voice to your characters or your projects and everything, the person that's financing it or making the final decisions doesn't always look like you. And so that's the importance of having, you know, us financing projects, us at the table, us being in the writer's room, us writing the projects, so that these characters, you know, like if I'm writing this character, my voice is in this character, not Julie Lipschitz.
And that's what I was going to mention that word, because Jay said conform. And I feel like as people of color in white workspaces or white owned spaces, you always feel the need to conform. And you know, we all have our
code switch.
About to say
code
switching
moments where every now and then you got to code switch a little bit. But I felt like that's exactly what Radha was facing. It was like being authentic, or as he was talking about gentrification a lot, they really gentrified her work.
Yeah, they did.
Like, that's not okay, because then it takes away from the authenticity of it. Did I say that right?
He made it he wanted it stereotypical. Like he wanted this, he wanted the sassy Black woman, and he wanted rap
poverty porn. You know, that's
remember though, he even said you have to comply to a certain type of audience, and he's speaking about his people, and therein lies really the. Yeah, I mean, but they're
because like, how do you know? You don't come from our communities. How can you tell us what we want, what we need?
But it's always to kind of they don't ever want to be the villain. You know what I mean? So you have to put them in and to centralize them and to make them sympathetic, that we don't really care about what her viewpoint is when you come into the neighborhood and want to change it to make you fit you, and people have been here for 50 or 60 years.
Right.
Do we really care about what you think? Because you don't seem to care about the people who are here. But if he's financing the story, that's the way to kind of gain sympathy for these people. And that's not the story that she was telling. You know what I mean?
I thought it was so dope that they
you don't feel good about making.
I thought it was so dope that they said we have to put someone white in it because they have to see themselves in the story. And I thought that the way that they wrote that into it was actually ingenious. I thought that, look, at the end of the day, we all know that if you want to do theater, and I mean, especially theater, and especially like with film and stuff, they're always going to ask you, is it viable? And what their idea of viable is if white people will buy it. It's not whether it's
crossover, box office success.
But you know what? I hear that, but I disagree with that. I think if it's good, they would go see it anyway.
I agree with that.
But it's that idea of to control the narrative, just like in Black Panther. Okay, does anybody on here think that we would have allowed the CIA agent in Wakanda? No. You think any of us think that we would have shared our technology with the world, who always been good at taking the things that we taught them and turning them against us? No. But that's the influence of them, you know, of them financing the story to be able to greenlight and to finalize the story, to always put a character in that to have you sympathize with their side of the story and not be authentic to your voice. And it's not hate, it's just not the story we would want to tell from our point of view and be authentic. And so I think that's the part of the story that I like about the artist struggle in this industry, when you're on other people's platforms and you're playing the game on somebody else's term, the kind of compromises that you have to make. And I think as an artist, as a writer, as just as a Black person who watches film and TV, you see that time and time again. And even as a viewer, it's something that is hard to digest for me, because I think I'm authentic to the Black experience. I know where I come from. And so when I see it, I know that's not our voice. We can see it, and we see it, we hear it, we know what it is. And if you're intelligent, you can kind of dismiss it, but it still gets to a point when you're almost tired of it? Like, can we just tell our story from our point of view in that?
They'll only let you tell your story if it's a drug story.
Right. But
Or
that's
slave.
what Radha is saying, you're not going to let me do anything.
Even
I'm
in the
just going to
slave
do it.
story, they like to interject a savior.
right.
That's just how it works. But I'm saying that if you're a criminal and it's a drug story, it could be all black cast. I think that is very difficult. Like I said, when it comes to when you have art, I'm just saying as an artist, and I'm like a lot of you that's on the panel, you guys know because you do art your own way, the same way I'm doing it, and it's like it's always very difficult to get a story off the ground. Ken Burns, who's white man, does documentaries. He does some really dope documentaries. He said, I made more money. He said, doing it my way. He said, I didn't make the kind of money that some of the other people were making, but he said, I never did a film where I ever had to ask a question about anything I was turning in. He said, I just did my work and then I sold my documentaries.
But he came up with some nice effects too, the Ken Burns effect, you know, and so which we use even to this day. But I think what I wanted to say about it all is, as a people, where like the Tyler Perrys and the Lena and the Oprahs, we got to start taking more chances with our artists, you know, because we always refer back to the white man, and that's why you don't find as many of us going out and trying to, greenlight some of these artists. And we got to start doing more of that. We got to stop asking and start demanding and start doing what we need to do to make ourselves whole. Get away from this, because you know what? There's enough out there for Bucky, anybody else who wants to tell their story and get it out there. There's enough Black production out there to get it done.
Well, you see, Tyler Perry has his own studio. He has his own studios. Lena has him and Grad Productions.
Exactly.
So folks are,
we got to start doing that and that's the road less traveled. That's the road that we got to get on, because I
can definitely see like a new Black renaissance.
Yes.
Where it's actually funded and backed by our people, because then you don't have to answer for anybody else that's outside of the culture that wouldn't understand.
Black Wall Street's going to be in entertainment this time. So, we can do Black Wall Street again. And this time let entertainment lead, because that's where everybody is. That's what everybody wants. And
what you gotta do is pick up a camera. What you gotta do is pick up a mic. What you gotta do is just get busy. Right. What it is that at the end of the day, too many people are waiting on the funding. Too many people are waiting on this and waiting on that, waiting on people to get on board. Like I said, I've been working on this documentary for a year and a half, and the pushback you get from the people who you think should support you is amazing. And so when it comes down to our people, it's like, yo, I don't understand why we can't come together sometimes, but I kind of get it now. You just can't wait. What you have to do is you see something, you just start putting these, putting the bricks up till you got a building. You just can't sit there and watch everybody and absorb what everybody else is feeling about our art. Whether it's white people or Black people, whether it's hood people or well-to-do Blacks, look, you got to put all that out your mind and create. And after you create something, you got to believe in it like you believe in yourself. And you cannot take a project and not, like, that's the whole premise of that movie to me, was that she believed, and I'm not talking about the actor, I'm not talking about nothing, I'm talking about the person, her, Radha, the actual person. That she actually, you can tell, she believed in her art enough to make herself vulnerable enough to make that piece. Because whenever you tell your story, that shows a vulnerability that a lot of people are not willing to do. People that tell a story about a person, and you want to talk about why most hip hop is whack now, is because it's all vicarious. None of this stuff is actually built on the artist. And so what ends up happening is that the stories that they're telling are not their stories, so you don't feel them. If you were talking about a Tupac, if you were talking about a Biggie, if you're talking about the artists that came from before, we didn't know you were supposed to lie. At that point, we thought that when you told a story that you're supposed to tell what was going on. Chuck D said, look, everything I report is not from my words. He said, but I'm a reporter in the streets. Like if you live in this environment, you're telling authentic stories because these are the stories that surround you.
And I'm sure everybody wants to talk about the success story, but they don't want to talk about the struggle that got them there sometimes.
Right. And I just want to piggy.
Already having it.
and I want to piggyback on what you said, Jason, because really the gatekeeper is gone now in entertainment. You know, there are so many venues that you can put your stuff out. And when we look at just the six of us right now, or six of us, I mean, I don't know. I got my twin brother sitting probably next to me, you know, vicariously, I should say. But you know, when you stop to think about it, you know the people and you have enough people to get a project done. You know, but we just have to be that type to say, okay, Jason knows if he calls me on a project, I'm there. What do I ask of you, Jason?
No, look, you see, I'm here every week doing this because I told you.
That's how we roll.
Whatever you need me for, and vice versa. That it's always been that way. And like I said, I always try to meet like-minded people with good energy. Because look, if we dig together, we're gonna get it done.
Exactly.
The problem is with Black art, and like I said, it's everybody wants to lead.
Right.
And it's cool. We all could play on the team, but everybody can't always be the leader. Exactly. Sometimes you've got to humble yourself, fall back, play your position, and then when it's your time to shine, then you shine. But right. I think that when it comes down to Black art, like I said, I'll say this, and I'll get back on track. When I did my film, I think, like I told you, we almost up to 2 million. I think we're at 1.9 right now, whatever. And out of all the comments, I could say if there's 1,000 comments, 900 or 950 are good comments. Let's say 900 of them are good comments. Let's say there's 100 of them that weren't. But the people that I'm listening to, when I'm like reading through the ones that are negative, I'm like, y'all have so much vitriol in your hearts against, you know, we all are supposed to look at art and say, okay, look, we all gonna punch some holes in something. That's fine. So that we all can grow from it. But that's not the objective of a lot of us out there. A lot of us, our objective is to tear down because we're not necessarily in a position to do it ourselves. Or, you know, you want to do something big with your dreams, but you say, this guy went out and did it on the camera and it's not a $2 million budget. Why is this so low budget? And hey, look.
I've said the same thing. I said, you see the folks and they be the most critical. And I'm like, you know, how about, you know, giving kudos to the folks who are actually trying to follow their dreams, and like that, because it takes courage to follow your dreams.
They sure do.
They say the empty wagon is the loudest,
right?
And I think that's what's spectacular about this film is, you know, that resilience and not giving up and staying true to the art. You know, you following your own voice. You kind of just following your path because you know at some point it's gonna pay off, and so I think that's why I appreciate it. I really like this.
I watched it on the fluke. Ron hit me up on the fluke and said, "We're gonna be reviewing." I said, "I'm already almost done with it." I said, "I got 10 minutes to go." And so when I watched it, I was pleasantly surprised. I will give almost all Black, believe it or not, I watch a lot of bad Black films. I just don't talk about it. I try to watch them because I try to make sure, because of what we do, because we do film, because we do whatever we do with art, I try my best to give people that spin. Even if it's whack, I'll let it rock to the end, even if I'm going to wash dishes or something like that, because at least they're getting that view. And
they're getting that view.
It was pleasant. But I guess what I'm saying about this film, it was such a pleasant surprise because I didn't know what I was getting into. Sadat X, who I work with on a couple of projects, he's in it for like a cameo piece. And so he posted about it and I saw some other stuff. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just check it out. You know, I said, I always try to give us a spin, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was a little long, but it was worth it.
It was good.
But you know, Jason, I see a lot of Black film. I'm a film fest person. I go to a lot of film festivals, and this year was good because a lot of them were online. And so I think I've been blessed to see a lot of good films that never see the light of day because they never get distribution. Because well, that's just me speculating, but whatever. There are a lot of good films that come from our authentic point of view that show us in the light we know us to be, not the stereotypical roles that they have us play. There's one of my favorites that I can't think of his name and I hate it, but the book is called Chapter and Verse. Okay. And Omari Hardwick was in it. It's a fabulous film, but that's just one of the gems that I've seen at a film festival. So for people who want to see work like this, support your Black Film Festival, ABFF, American Black Film Festival, the Martha Vineyard Film Festival, Bronze Lens in Atlanta, Pan-African Film Fest in LA.
The Urban Film Festival in New York. 'Cause I went to that one before.
Yeah, you will have the opportunity to see. It's the Black Film Fest in Houston. I hope I'm not saying the name right, but there's one in Houston too by J.O. Malone. You can look him up on Instagram. But you will see that there's a lot of artists doing work, really good writers, really good directors. Oh God, I can't think of his name for sure. I can't think of his name, but there are a lot of people out there telling these stories that when you see them, you recognize us in it. You recognize our point of view told from our gaze. So this just gives me hope because it's on a platform where more people can see it and it's getting the shine that it deserves.
Yeah, shout out to Radha because she wrote, produced it, directed it, and also this film I understand is doing well Sundance too.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think what you said is accurate, which is that there are good Black films out there, but the stuff that they push to the top, the stuff that ends up on the platforms usually is the junk because they think that's the stuff that's going to attract the people. And I'm not saying, again, I'll watch stuff. I don't care if it's from Nigeria. I don't care if the stuff is from down the street. I'll watch anybody's film who's Black. If it's decent, don't get me wrong. You give me 10 minutes into it and it's trash, I will turn you off. But for the most part, I try to stick it out because you want to see. I told you this. I think we had this conversation when we were talking about power. I want to see Black media win.
You rooting for everybody Black, like
everybody. Yeah. Unapologetically, right? Because we're creators. That's what we do. You know, we can't help it.
I agree.
We close our eyes and wake up in the morning and we invent something new.
Every day.
And, before we close out a little bit, I want to throw it back to Bucky Malone because we talked a little bit about how it relates to his artistry, but I was just wondering industry-wise if you related to any of the themes in terms of that influencing your decision to stay independent. Because, you do have these people that have, the money and they try to coerce you into these deals, but then they want you to change your sound or your content. I was wondering if that influenced any of your decisions to remain independent so that you also have that control over your content.
Most definitely, I've been rapping since a young age, you know what I'm saying? I've probably been in and out of studio since 13 or 14. And just having people come up to me and talk, contracts and this, that, and the third, me turning it down and just overseeing other people's like situations and experiences. It's like 1 minute you can drop a mixtape or a single whenever you want, and then you'll see a cat sign a deal and you thinking, oh man, they got it made. Next you know, they're not even releasing music no more because it's somebody else's decision. So I think that like just watching stuff over the years, watching different like big artists go through certain scenarios, it's made me like keep an eye out for it. Like, hey, do I really want a record deal or a major label deal? Like, or do I want a partnership or do I want distribution? It's kind of helped me narrow my focus on what I actually want because everybody wants a deal, but they don't, they don't really measure everything that comes with it. They don't look at advances like that's really a loan. They look at it like, oh, 500K or $1 million, whatever. They don't look at it like, no, you got to spend that just to put your first project out half the time. So yeah, definitely this film, it kind of was like, how can I put it? It was like a firsthand glance of what a lot of up and coming artists and artists that's already on face, as far as, oh, I'm signed to this company, so I can't do it completely my way. I do got to let them have some input, even though my input may be a little better.
Yeah. And that's what I figured you would be able to like give us that thing because it's like, definitely Radha's story is very authentic, but I was wondering if that's something a lot of artists face because even down to like a lot of people starting to get privy to owning your masters, that's something that was not a real conversation back in the day. And now stuff like that is like a hot topic. Like I'm making this music, but I don't really own it. And so
right.
That was
Prince used to say it all the time. Prince was always right.
It's people out there that's fake independent. They signed the deals, but they lying and still saying they independent because, they think that, because really people want to support the independent artists. They want to support the person that looks like they're getting it, quote unquote, out the mud. You know what I'm saying? So it's people that's even signing deals now that don't even want to reveal who they signed to because they scared that it may change the outlook of their character or their value, So this film definitely had me looking at it like, yeah, man, they talking that talk on there. They dropping a lot of gems on this, man, because really, it ain't always what you think. Like she had been dying to get, you know, her screenplay off the ground and, you know, get a sponsor. And pretty much as soon as she did, they try to alter it all around. So it just is a wake-up call. It's like, man, you might get there sometimes and it may not even be what you thought it was going to be. So you always got to stay true to yourself and stay on course, for sure.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'm definitely wishing you the best, man, because I love
Thank you all.
your projection. You definitely on your way,
Especially
thank you. With your latest projects, and I'm glad you were able to join us and definitely give us your insider, input.
No, I appreciate y'all for having me, man. The movie was funny as hell, so it was easy. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be on here talking about no movie I wouldn't normally watch, man. But now Lena did her thing. You know, Radha did her thing. You know, that she has an interesting life story. I feel like I tell people this all the time. It's your story that's going to sell whatever it is you're pitching. If you have a story in the background, something interesting about you, people going to buy into it. So I definitely loved this film and enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I know that you're a Power fan and also a Shy fan. So, you know.
Yeah. I love Power. I love Shy too.
Yeah, we have to have you on to get your commentary about those shows in the future.
I'm trying to be an extra on both of them joints. It don't matter which one. I'll be in either one because you know they both tough. You know.
All right.
Can I say one more thing? I really want to shout out to Radha and let her know I really like the classroom scenes and how she related to those kids. Yes. And she treated them like people. I never got the sense, you know what I mean? She allowed them to have a voice and to really be themselves.
It reminded me of Dangerous Minds.
Yeah.
I was excited that the kids were excited about art. Like, you know, and how they pitch their scenes and everything. So when I see young people interested in the arts, I'm always enthused about that anyway. Yeah. And the scene with Elaine, you know, when she came past the classroom and she was making fun of Radha's performance, but then when her friends went away and she kind of stood back, you know, from the friends, and she kind of like, oh man, that was messed up. That made me think of Purple Rain. It made me think about the Morris Day moment, because when Morris Day was making fun of Prince when his father got shot, and then when everybody walked away, he stood back and was like by himself, like he knew it wasn't cool. Yeah. So Elaine had a similar moment in this movie.
I said the same thing about the Purple Rain thing when they hung in the doorway. I said the same thing.
You did.
How's the family?
Yeah. He said, how's the family? And she was like, oh, I heard your thing was the bomb. Like she did the same thing. No, I was like, okay.
They definitely felt like an homage to that Prince scene.
Yes.
It definitely felt like they cribbed it. But I thought that, look, overall, it was a phenomenal movie. Listen, I'm gonna watch it again and again if need be, because I tell you what, like I said again, I'm supporting it. I think that when we get good Black media, we gotta kill it. We gotta keep promoting it. I just watched Charm City. That was another good Black film.
Yes. Yeah, I think we need to watch that one.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. I ain't seen that one yet.
You gotta. That is one to see, and I saw it last night. And I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna spend any time on it, but I'm gonna tell you.
Well, so maybe we should review that next.
You know what? You ain't said nothing slick to an oil can. That's an old thing. But you know, but before we go, I wanted to bring up Elaine and Rosa, because I did like at the end how they became. Well, you could see the friendship developing at the theater. You know, because they had this turmoil in class the whole time. Because Elaine was, I think, trying to find herself more than anything else.
Oh, of course.
And at the end at the theater, you know, it showed that, hey, no matter how confrontational you can be, you can still come together. And they came together on what? Art. So art is a broader spoken word that taps into us all. And so the movie had a lot of themes, and I really appreciated it wholeheartedly.
What about Radha and D?
Oh yeah.
No, you know, look.
Together or what?
I ain't got look. I'm all good with Radha and D, and particularly with D. You know, because D saw he saw the naturalness in that woman, and you know, and he made her feel good. So you know, because as we know, she needed some. She was, you know, trying to get some early on in the movie. She wanted some. So, you know,
I'm glad it wasn't wasn't one of her students, though. I'm glad she
There you
wasn't.
go.
Oh yeah, the one at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's a little questionable
Did
at
you see when
times.
he smushed old girl when she
Uh-huh.
came?
Yeah.
But
Oh.
I like D because he was kind of like an old soul. I appreciated how she was like, yeah, she didn't think nobody walked her to the station, but he literally watched her go. He told her what she did.
Right.
And I was like,
That's very Brooklyn. We tend to do stuff like that. like legit. Like look, you don't know I'm watching, but we watching the whole
but
time.
we watching. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And the fact that he was in the cold train and stuff, I was like, D was an old soul. I was like, I like D.
Yes,
He had
sir.
some depth to him.
Yeah, he did.
I'm here for it.
I also
Well,
like how they incorporated the altar into it. Forrest had the altar. That's something that is a part of African spiritual traditions. And I like how I'm starting to see a lot more of that in the art, that maybe people won't be so afraid of it and start to kind of investigate that part of our legacy, which is very important to who we really are.
Well, all the new media seems to be breaking those stereotypes down of what people have against them. I think, like I said, I'm always talking about whatchamacallit all the time on HBO, but I'll go faster because I won't go past time. But long story short, it's beautiful what they're doing. I think we did it with Wakanda, what they did with that. Everybody's drawing on the ancestors, and they're drawing on a different version of Black people that's not necessarily the mainstream idea of what people see as Black.
More closer to the truth of who we are and not who people want us to be,
right?
Or tried to make us be.
Excellent.
Lovecraft is what I was trying to get out.
We had talked about doing
I know she was talking about Lovecraft.
We were talking about doing that too.
I've seen the whole series, and I'm telling you, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was.
You got past where we at in regular time?
Oh, I'm waiting for season 2.
Okay. You see, I'm gonna come to your house and watch it. You got the season finale of Charles?
Look, I got a theater. Y'all can come on in. We can watch.
So we can have a watch party and recap Lovecraft too.
There you go.
Spotters, are you interested in Lovecraft Country? You gotta let us know.
I saw a tweet from a spotter that said that we should recap it. So
the cinematography, the cinematography is outstanding, and I mean that in every fashion of the sense of the word. I say no more. Watch it. We got a lot of work to do. So just stay tuned and stay.
We tried a lot of shows, but I think we try to give new shows at least a season for people to get through and get a real feel for them.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of new shows that people have been like, you gotta review this, you gotta review this. So we're trying to give it at least one season so that everybody can, establish if they really here for it. And then
you're gonna be here for Lovecraft. That's not a one and done. I mean, it's very similar to Watchmen, but it's got a whole different theme to it. All I can say is watch the Black shows that are out there. There's some good quality content out there. Stay away from the junk because there's plenty of that too. But let's get the ratings up on the shows that deserve it and the movie. That's all.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us to talk about the show today. We really enjoyed 40-year-old version. I think from our discussion and even just like how long we went, you could tell we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You guys in the comments, please let us know how you felt about 40-year-old version. Please give us your thoughts. We thought it was outstanding. And please also let us know about any new shows that you would like for us to review. I think and the power kind of the time off that we have from them, we'll be doing some other content in the meantime. So give us your suggestions and we'll keep the content flowing. I definitely want to thank Bucky Malone for joining us. You killed it today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me again.
And definitely, please feel free to join us again on any other conversation. If you like a show, hit us up. We'll pull you in.
Oh, no, for sure. And if for everybody watching, make sure y'all subscribe to the spot. Real talk, man.
Yeah, now that's real talk right there.
Yes, and please start out your handle again.
Oh yeah, follow me on all social networks. That's Instagram, Twitter, Bucky Malone 703. Let's get it.
Yes, please hit him up, support his social media, support his all of the streaming platforms that he's on as well. We are on the Spot Real Talk at Instagram. So at the Spot Real Talk on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Jay is at NDaFlix, NDaFlix, FLIX. Make sure you support him and follow him as well. Subscribe and click the notification bell on our YouTube page so that you get alerted every time that we post a video. And as always, we'll be back next week with more great content. So you guys have any closing comments before we head out?
It's been fun.
Nope, it's fun.
Watch the 40-year-old version.
Yeah, watch the movie. If you haven't seen it, trust me, it's worth it.
Definitely.
Young May was wild in
Congrats,
there
Radha.
too.
Congrats, Radha. Congrats, Lena. Everyone involved.
Job well done.
Definitely.
All right, well, I think we're gonna head out. Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Peace.
Hop in a whip and I'm out. I need so much I can't count. Oh, and I don't need no college, cause I'm getting stupid amounts. Hey, hop in a whip and I'm out. I need so much I can't count. Oh, and I don't need no college, cause I'm getting stupid amounts. Yeah, I'm getting stupid amounts. Hey, so much that I'm losing accounts. Hey, I'm a young boss in my state. Yeah, so I gotta stay in my town. Hey, I think I'm staying around. Hey, what is they talking about? Hey, they know I've been in the lab. Yeah, bro, why they all going out? Hey, I got the money, it's inside. They wanna ask why I been why. In 2018, they still hate it. I see them now, they all switch sides. I told them all that I've been fly. There ain't no faking on this side.